started here. Moment. So, Allie, hello. I see Allie.
Hi.
So many awesome faces. So, first off, I really just want to take a moment to thank you all for being part of this and participating with us today. This was a massive undertaking, and we had some amazing individuals who hopped in to really share their insight and to help bring this project to life. So I'll take a moment just to introduce those individuals in just a moment, but we have people from all over Orlando, Florida. I see, oh, it's coming in, Arizona, Colorado as well. So
Michigan. Hey, Michigan.
Michigan, yes, indeed. Michigan as well. So New Jersey. So this is amazing. And, this is really what we were hoping to do, to be able to bring you all together and share some insight and some ways that we can focus on continuing to build and develop our careers. So first off, I wanted to take a moment and thank the individuals who have helped to bring this whole project to life. And they are here in this session today. First off, I wanted to start off and introduce Philip Rekoff, who is waving now. There he is. So Philip and I had a conversation early on talking about and just discussing how we can engage and give back to the community. And it started off really with the hospitality industry. Philip actually attended the Rosen School or Rosen College for Hospitality Management. He graduated last December with a degree in hospitality management. And I worked with him with the Orlando Magic. He's been an absolutely amazing person, probably one of the best or greatest individuals I've had the opportunity to work with. But he's been absolutely amazing and a great resource for me as well. Whitney is sitting under the title of Professional Care, and we'll talk briefly about where the title came from for Professionals Care. But Whitney, I worked with Whitney during my time at Walt Disney World while I was working in Magic Kingdom Guest Relations as a leader there. That I can't remember, I think it was 2009 for myself, up 2009 until 2011. But Whitney was a professional intern with Magic Kingdom Guest Relations. And when I mentioned this project or shared it on LinkedIn, Whitney quickly responded and jumped in because she was very passionate about giving back to the community. So Whitney is currently residing in Michigan at the moment, but we're excited to have her on. So thank you, Whitney, for being part of this.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And then next we have Lisa Doe. Lisa is a current student, undergraduate student at UCF, and she attends the Rosen College for Hospitality Management. She's a hospitality management major, and Lisa is in her senior year there at Rosen. Lisa has been strategic and instrumental in partnering us with the Peer Outreach Mentoring Program at UCF, or POMP as it is known. And POMP is an award-winning and nationally recognized program, and it's headed by Vanessa Blackman, who is an assistant director at Rosen as well. And we do have actually a number of individuals who are attending Rosen actually in today's session. So Lisa has been instrumental in that. And there's one other individual who's not here with us today. He had to work, but he sends his hellos to everyone. His name is Jalen Davis. Lisa's a close friend of Jalen. Jalen is also a student of UCF as well. And he has actually hosted his own series of webinars during this time as well for the students at UCF. So Jalen says hello, but again, I just wanted to take a moment and thank these individuals because they have been a huge part in helping to bring this project to life. So thank you so much for your help. So for today's session, first off, I wanted to take a moment just to share the name of the series for these webinars. The webinar series is called Professionals Care, and CARE is an acronym for Career Advancement Resource Events. And what we're looking to do, and our goal and our mission with these webinars, is to find ways that we can allow professionals, but then also college students as well, to connect with subject matter experts in and other professionals across the field to gain more insight into career development and how to build your career as well. So again, we are hoping to continue these sessions over the next several months and into the future as well. We encourage you to check us out on Facebook and then also our website as that continues to grow. We'll share those links with you throughout the way or throughout today's session. And before we begin, I just have a few housekeeping notes and housekeeping reminders for everyone as well. First off, we do encourage participation. This is instrumental to this whole project. And the one thing we wanted to happen, we wanted to allow our participants the opportunity to engage and speak with our guest speakers. So we're doing something a little different from your typical webinar. We are going to allow you to present questions, but we would love it if you would actually come on screen and present your questions directly to our guest speakers. So what I'm asking you to do is, as we go throughout today's conversation, if you have any questions, please type those questions in the Zoom group chat, and you can share those questions with the entire group. One of our co-hosts, that includes Lisa, Philip, and Whitney, will feed through those questions. And what we're going to do is actually look at your questions, and one of those hosts will actually reach out to you in a private Zoom chat and ask if you're willing to present that question on screen. And if you say yes, what we'll ask you to do is to unmute your camera, unmute your audio as well. And then we're going to open the floor for you to ask your question to our guest host or our guest speaker, who I'll introduce in just a moment. If you choose not to present your question, sometimes we decide, hey, I'm camera shy, I don't really want to ask the question in front of the entire group. That's fine. Just let the host know that you would prefer not to ask that question on screen. They'll let me know, and I'll ask that question on your behalf as well. But we do encourage participation, and we'll be taking questions throughout the entire session today. Finally, this session will be recorded. We wanted to make sure you are aware of that, and this recording will be available on our social media platforms, but then also our website as well, post the webinar. So we'll give you more details and share more information about when that will be available at the end of today's session as well. And finally, let me go back to our questions one more time. Because of the amount of people that we have in today's session and because our time together is extremely limited, we are asking, if you come on screen with a question, that you please limit yourself to one question while you're on screen. So those are some housekeeping items for you. Again, we are encouraging participation and we want you to be involved today. So don't hold back with your questions, and we're excited to have you on board. So now I wanted to take a moment to introduce our guest speaker, and I'm very excited to have her with us today. Our guest speaker today is Caitlin Busscher. Now, for almost a decade, Caitlin has developed a multifaceted career with the Walt Disney Company, and she has held roles within consumer insights, training and development, operations management, public affairs, but then also corporate citizenship as well. Now, Caitlin currently serves as the Experience Development Manager supporting premium services at Walt Disney World. Caitlin's extensive experience in communications includes writing and public speaking, and as a matter of fact, her strong communication skills and passion for storytelling led her to represent the Walt Disney Company as the 2015 and 2016 Walt Disney World Ambassador. Now, she honed her product development skills while working in a travel technology startup and even spent time living abroad in China. So Caitlin shares her passion for travel and sustainability, healthy living, but then also professional development on her website, which is katewithoutborders.com. And we'll share that website with you on the chat as well. So Caitlin, welcome. Today we're excited to have you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of this. I'm just really, really excited to connect with other professionals during this time. And thank you to the whole team for providing such a valuable resource.
Excellent. Thank you, Caitlin. So today's topic will focus on personal branding. And the reason why this topic means so much to us is because it's part of your career development, and it's part of anything that you do, from the job interview to what you're currently doing on the job as well. But I wanted to ask you, why does personal branding matter so much?
Personal branding, if you think of any kind of marketing, I mean, companies spend a ton of money to learn how to market their brand. We, in order to be competitive, need to be doing the same thing. So I kind of look at professional image and personal branding. They're almost two sides of the same coin, and you need to learn how to mix them together in a way that is comfortable for you, because there's a spectrum, how much of your professional life and how much of your personal life you want to mix together. But I feel like in today's day and age, with the technology that we have, with the competitive market the way it is, the people that are going to be the most successful are those that are able to integrate the two seamlessly. So that's something I'm very passionate about, especially having worked for some very large companies where brand is so important.
So thinking about that and about personal branding, in an age where we're living our lives online through social media, oftentimes we think of personal branding as something that, a college age student would be focused on, or someone who's early in their career should be focused on. But do you think that personal branding is something that should be focused on regardless of your age and wherever you are in your career?
Yes, I think you should always be thinking about personal branding. And to be honest, Brandon, I feel like I've even reinvented to some extent my personal brand over time. So I think it's something you should also be honing in on and refining. So for example, we had talked a little bit about my blog in the beginning. I had focused primarily on a travel blog because I love to travel. It was my passion. And I was like, I'm going to be a travel blogger. This is my dream job. I'm going to be paid to travel the world, which is great. But over time, I've had to reevaluate what is my actual brand, because focusing on just a passion is not the same as focusing on a marketable brand and your specific strengths and skill sets. So I've kept the passion. Obviously, I still have a lot of those things I'm passionate about, but I've started to see a place that I could hopefully bring value to others was those professional development resources. And I've seen a lot more traction when I've focused or tweaked my personal brand to align with where I can bring value. So it is a constant reevaluation, and I think it's really, really important in this day and age to be able to hone in on what your personal brand is.
I agree. I definitely agree with you. And so we were talking about your website, and what I love about your website, at the very first page or the front page of your website, you share an introduction, just sharing that story as to why you came up with the title Kate Without Borders. Can you explain more about that? Because I'll tell you for myself, when I first saw the title of your blog and your webpage, I thought it was unique, and I wanted to know, where did the Without Borders come from? So can you give some more insight into where you came up with that idea?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. So when I was designing my website, I knew, because I'd researched, that the title was really important, because you want to make sure you're putting your brand out there without boxing yourself in based on that one title. And at the beginning, I was like, this is going to be a travel blog. And to me, Without Borders was reminiscent of, like that physical, like the physical literal, like I have no borders, I'm going to be traveling across the world. But I also liked the fact that it could also mean, you're living outside the box. You're not going to box yourself in. You don't have borders. And in the end, as I mentioned, I'm really glad that I used that name, because it has transformed into more than just a travel blog. Because honestly, the more I thought about it, the travel sphere is very busy. It is very full. There's a lot of competition. And quite honestly, if I'm being truthful with myself, there are plenty of people that can provide travel tips, far better than I can, because they travel full time. So I'm glad I gave the Without Borders, because it's given me room to grow and to allow myself, even personally, to not have borders with what's my personal brand, and lean into my strengths while not neglecting my passion. So it's a really nice mix of things that just make me, and hopefully people find value with some of those things.
Right. It's such an amazing story. And I think that ties in very well about your communications experience and you being a storyteller as well. It's funny, we talk a lot about Disney and storytelling. As a matter of fact, I posted a post on LinkedIn recently about journaling, in your everyday life and just in your career as well. But it goes back to storytelling. So I think it's very interesting how you tie and are able to tie that story into your own website too. I want you to think about your personal website, and do you view that website as an extension of your resume?
Yes. In a word, yes. So, I just wrote an article recently about interviewing, and it seems kind of crazy to me that in this day and age, people are still looked at as a two-dimensional person that you have to fit onto a piece of paper that someone's going to give like 30 seconds of time to. And that's what you have to make an impression in this crowded industry or economy. So to me, if you're able to effectively use your resume as a vehicle to create intrigue so that people want to learn more about you, and they can go to a place like a website or your LinkedIn account and they can see more about you, they get to know you as a more three-dimensional person. And that to me is going to set you up for success and set you apart from other people that are just going to exist on a piece of paper. So I do include my LinkedIn account. I do include my website on my resume header.
Mm-hmm.
I do include it in my email signature, because if I can get somebody to see more than ink on printer paper, that's only going to behoove me.
I agree. And I think it's great because it gives you that opportunity to showcase often a side that hiring managers and recruiters do not get to see. Again, as you mentioned, I think, which is a great point, usually when you see you see a person's resume, you see the words on the paper and you see those skill sets, but often those hiring managers and those recruiters are looking for, one, are you going to be a right fit culturally for the organization? But two, what are some of the things that you're doing outside of work that would apply well to the job that you're doing too? So I think that's perfect. So I will tell you this, more and more employers are now allowing candidates to actually share websites as part of the job application process. Do you have any recommendations for others who are considering or saying, hey, you know what, I would love to build a website at some point or build an online portfolio? Do you have any recommendations for those individuals when it comes to showcasing that as part of the application or the interview process?
Yeah, I would definitely say do some research about what is the best medium or platform for you. Not everybody's a writer, so maybe it's not a blog. Maybe it's a podcast. Maybe you're an artist of some kind on the side. I've seen some of my colleagues that have amazing cupcakes, card making, and they showcase that on Pinterest or on Instagram. Find the medium that fits your passion and your skill set, and then don't be afraid to put those things out there, because sometimes that's how people discover you, and you might get professional opportunities that you had not anticipated. I would also say invest a little bit in whatever your platform is, if it's a website or if it's a podcast. I would invest time researching the right, because there's multiple platforms, there's multiple providers for all of these different mediums. Find the one that's right for you. I knew for me on my website, WordPress is probably one of the best ones that most people know. I am not a coder. I've learned a little bit of code, but I knew I wanted to focus more of my time on writing. So I picked one of the websites that's what you see is what you get. It's more of a drag and drop. So do a little bit of research, invest the time, invest a little bit of money. It sometimes costs a little bit of money, but it looks more professional.
Right.
In the long run, that might be better for you as well.
I love it. Excellent. Well, guess what? We have our first question. And we have a question from Blake. Blake would like to come on camera. So Blake, you should be unmuted and ready to chat. Blake, are you there?
I am, Mr. Rhodes. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. How are you today?
I am absolutely fantastic.
Excellent. Where are you from? Where are you currently located?
I am currently located in the magical Orlando, Florida area.
Yay. Awesome. Awesome. Are you attending UCF in Rosen as well?
I am. I just started my senior year, graduated in May 2021.
Congratulations to you. So
Thank
I'm
you.
going to open up the floor and I'll allow you to ask your question to Caitlin.
Sounds great, Mr. Rhodes. So, Caitlin, my question to you is, are there any books on personal branding you recommend for young professionals?
Actually, there is. So I read a book by Donald Miller. It's called Creating a Story Brand, Creating Your Story Brand. Donald Miller, he does a fantastic job of walking you through the steps of what, whether it's a product you're trying to sell, or it's a company you're trying to build, or you can even apply it to your personal brand. It is a really, really great way to kind of talk through the storytelling process of branding, because I think where a lot of people kind of go awry, not awry, but is you're talking about yourself, right? And it's easy to kind of get caught up in talking about like, well, I do this and I like this and I can do this, but storytelling is all about your audience and making sure you remember that whatever you're sharing has to relate to your audience and bring your audience value, or they're going to lose interest in the story. So it's all about creating intrigue for them. So you're sharing your brand, but how does it relate to them? And he does a great job of giving examples, lots of Disney examples in there. But he does a really great job of kind of leading you through that. And there's worksheets, he does webinars. So that was somebody that kind of got me started on branding, because I wasn't a marketing major or anything. So I had to kind of learn from myself. So I would say start there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Love it. And great answer too. And great question. Thank you so much, Blake, for coming on screen.
Thank you, Blake.
Yes, indeed. I love it. So it's interesting. You mentioned towards the end just about finding your right audience. And this is something you actually talk about in one of your recent articles on your website, which is the guide to creating a personal brand, is finding a way to be unapologetically you, and then wrapping that up into a brand that's marketable to employers. So I think something important that you say there is that you may find that your brand doesn't appeal to everyone. I think sometimes we're quickly trying to make sure that we can reach the masses and reach everyone, but sometimes you have to think about and stop who's your audience and finding who's that right audience for you to deliver your product as well. So
Exactly.
I love it. Excellent. Let's talk a little more about going from from your website to LinkedIn, because I will tell you that I am one. I do not feel like I am a LinkedIn professional, but I'm learning LinkedIn. I'm getting so much better at LinkedIn. And it's funny because I mentioned this in one of our earlier conversations that we had. When I first joined LinkedIn, it really was, you know what, I'm going to create a LinkedIn profile because it felt like the role said you needed a LinkedIn profile.
Professional thing to do.
Exactly. If you wanted a job, you have to get a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
And I've learned over time that it is important to actually engage and be involved in LinkedIn as well. So how has that worked for you? How have you been able to leverage LinkedIn to really get that message out, but then also showcase some of the things and the topics that you're passionate about on your website?
So, Brandon, I think it's funny you mentioned that, because LinkedIn is one of those platforms that I tend to kind of go up and down with sometimes, where I go long periods where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I have that. But it is really important because it is a great place for professionals to connect. And I do think it's the most professionally focused platform. So I do go on there for a lot of leadership development, because I'll follow certain hashtags or certain industry news or professionals that I admire. And people will post some really, really great resources that can be a learning opportunity. Of course, it's also a way to network and connect, which I know I get a lot of questions about networking and how to do it organically. And for example, like even this opportunity, this wonderful chance for all of us professionals, everybody here to connect, came from being on LinkedIn and that organic networking. So I do think it is a fantastic platform for that. And as far as marketing yourself, it is really the best place I have found to put those professional articles out there. So my medium is writing, my vehicle is my website, and then you have to be able to publicize what you do. You have to get it in front of people. That's a big part of marketing. So LinkedIn is a really great place where I'm able to do that and get the feedback as well, because people will message you and say thank you so much. And the feedback is a really important part of marketing yourself.
Excellent. So are there any other tips that you would share with our audience today regarding how to use LinkedIn effectively?
I would say definitely go in and update it every now and then. I spend, and I might actually need to tweak mine a little bit at this point, but I spend a lot of time really looking into what is an effective intro. How do you create intrigue? How do you create value? So look at your introduction, that summary about yourself, and really focus on taking time to hone your personal brand and write it there. I would say use that platform if you have a website, if you have a portfolio, share those articles or those links, and make sure you hashtag them, because those do get followed, those hashtags. I have seen that some articles would be trending in leadership if I've hashtagged leadership. So I would definitely say do a little bit of research on how to best maximize the platform and use it to your advantage.
Excellent. I love it. So
we're
actually, oh, go ahead.
Put your LinkedIn URL on your resume at the top.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So this actually leads us, we're going to throw up a poll question in just a moment, and see how effectively you feel like you're using LinkedIn. So you'll take a moment, just look at the poll in front of you and answer this question. Do you feel like you use LinkedIn effectively? So we'll give you just a few seconds to answer that question.
Pretty music.
While we do that, Caitlin, in just a moment here, we're going to talk more about your ambassador experience, because I'm sure many of our participants here who are not familiar with the culture of Walt Disney World and the Walt Disney Company may not be as familiar with ambassadors. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So here are the results from that last poll. 35% of you said that you feel like you use LinkedIn effectively, but 65% say no. So it's very interesting. And again, LinkedIn is, again, I said on my end, I just recently really started to, I guess, hang out more on LinkedIn. Like, it's become what was Facebook for me like several years ago. I'm like, oh, now, okay, I'm just going to hang out on LinkedIn all the time. But I found so much just like relevance from posting on LinkedIn, especially articles that relate to topics that I'm very passionate about as well. So that's great advice. I wanted to open the floor for another question. And this will actually be a good question. This another topic that we're going to talk a little later, but I wanted to bring it up now. We have Allie. Is Allie on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Allie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Allie, where are you located?
Orlando.
Orlando, yay! Do you attend Rosen as well?
No, actually. No? I work at Disney.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to be starting up with Disney Aspire for University of Denver soon for my master's.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing, amazing.
Thank
so
you.
We're going to open the floor to you and let you present your question to Caitlin.
So I'm very interested in many topics and feel very multi-passionate, and I always struggle with honing in on my personal brand and finding what things work for me. So how do you know what to pick out of all of your interests and really hone in on your brand?
That is actually an awesome question. Hi, Allie. It's good to see you.
Hi. You too.
I think this is something that takes a little bit of time, a little bit of trial and error, test and adjust. But I think what you could start doing is make a list of your personal strengths, maybe something you consider yourself almost a subject matter expert in. Look at your skill set. What are those things you're good at? And then also consider your passions. And it kind of comes down to you're marketing yourself, right? So you need to see what sets you apart. What combination of those skills, strengths, and passions make you marketable? So that's usually a good starting point. It takes a little bit of time, as I mentioned. I started with a passion, which was traveling and writing. And as I went through my career, I started to realize, like, oh, okay, so communications, that's what I went to college for. So I literally have a degree in that. So maybe that's a skill set I should utilize more. And I noticed that, you know, and same with the marketplace, you need to find where those empty spots are. And I do think that communication is something that is overlooked sometimes and can be very valuable, whether it's written communication or spoken communication. So once I started realizing like that people were nervous public speaking or didn't know how to interview effectively, didn't know how to story tell, those are all communication skills. And so I realized, well, I do love writing. I do have a background in communications, and I guess something I do have a strength for since I've done so much work in that field in my career. So maybe this is a place where I should be focusing. And then again, get that feedback. When I started realizing there was an uptick in my website visits, and when I started realizing more people were reaching out with positive communication and gratitude, I was like, oh, people are finding value in this. So this should be what I offer to people, because that's what a marketable skill is, if it actually offers value. So when I started getting that feedback loop of, yes, this is helpful, thank you, I doubled down on that. So it took me, I mean, it's taken me a while to get there. It takes finesse, but I wouldn't give up. And you're uniquely you. You have something to offer, and just find what that is.
Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that. Thank you so much for coming online as well and sharing your question with us, Allie.
Thank you
It's a
so much.
pleasure meeting you, and good luck with Disney Aspire as well. That's an amazing, absolutely amazing program that the Walt Disney Company has provided to our cast members, and it's always amazing to see people take advantage of that as well. So I know you'll do well, and thank you for being online with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Caitlin.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
So let's talk briefly about that, because one thing that I feel is very important before you start to develop and create your own personal brand, you have to do some self-exploration, and it requires you to dig deep to know who you are as well. So oftentimes, you know, as a leader, I've always mentioned to people, hey, here's some great resources that you can use to learn more about your personality, or, you know, those skill sets that can be marketable in the workplace as well. I know one that we often turn to is the MBTI, or the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And if you're not familiar with the MBTI, it really follows a lot of the psychological theories of Carl Jung. And essentially from there, we take, I'm so sorry I heard that beep. I thought that was me for a moment. I'm like, oh no. But what it does is it takes some of those concepts and takes the psychological traits that Jung talks about, and breaks them up into 16 different personality types. So of course, you know, you have your INFPs, your ENTJs, and so on from there. Are there other resources or other assessments that you would recommend to individuals or to those out there who are looking to just identify and determine what skill sets do I possess, or what are some of my personality traits that I can market?
Yeah, there are two that come to mind for me, and I like these two together because one's a little bit more the professional image side, and one's a little bit more the personality branding side. And I do think, again, when you're marketing yourself, if you can marry the two together, that's going to give you the most unique skill set to offer employers. So on the personal branding side, this is, you know, it's the personality test du jour right now, is the Enneagram test.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun. I always give the caveat that any of these tests, I mean, don't live and die by them, because it is a self-assessment. So it is based on how self-aware you are. And, you know, we do have our own biases as well, but they're really, really helpful to kind of get you started and help you build that brand. So for me, the Enneagram was really fun because I did feel like it was very accurate. And I felt like it rounded out some of my, you know, professional elevator pitch speech. It kind of rounded it out and gave it more of a personality, if that makes sense. And it did help me guide my brand a little bit. So I was the enthusiast, the lover of life. You know, I've got FOMO if I don't get to do all of the things. And so I used that on both my website and also my Instagram account. Because thinking about my skills, I was like, okay, well, I'm helping people travel better. I talk about happiness a lot and how to find happiness. I'm, trying to provide professional resources you can get, move ahead professionally. So it's all about living your best life, which is kind of what the enthusiast is all about. They just want to live their best life. So that was kind of a click for me, and it helped me form that a little bit. So I use that, like, helping you squeeze every drop out of life, or helping you live your best life. And then the other end of the spectrum is the Strengths Finders, which I think has actually been rebranded
to Clifton Strengths. Yes.
Clifton Strengths, which I just, I linked, I was like, well, that's my name. So that one was really helpful for me because it highlights the things you're already good at instead of focusing on your deficits or what you should work on.
Right.
Which I think is much more helpful because we all have something to offer. And so instead of trying to fix a supposed deficit, it allows you to be you and bring your unique skill set to the table. So that was really helpful for me. I used to think that because I couldn't make decisions in the moment, right on a dime, that was a deficit, that I was maybe not an intuitive decision maker. But then when I took the Clifton Strengths test, one of my top 5 strengths was input, which to me surprised me because that means I do a lot of research. I'll look to subject matter experts. I'll ask my peers to make sure there's buy-in. And so I was like, oh, something that I thought maybe was a deficit is actually one of my strengths, and that could balance somebody out who is more intuitively a decision maker. So I really, really loved that. So being able to marry those two together has helped me on my marketing journey.
I love that. Yeah. And Clifton Strengths, or the Strengths Finders, is an amazing resource. And I encourage people to tap into that because it will open up a lot of things that you either knew about yourself or you didn't know. But I think it's great because you're able to leverage a lot of the insights that come from Clifton Strengths to understand how you better work with others on teams and balancing that teamwork component as well. Perfect. So we have another question. I'm going to bring Allie online. This is Allie Golden online. So Allie, you should be ready to unmute, all set and ready to go.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Allie, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks again for hosting this today. This is so exciting.
It's great to see you. So Allie and I, we've been able to connect fairly recently at the start of these stay-at-home orders, and Allie has some great experience. But Allie, I'll let you come on screen now and share your question with Caitlin.
Awesome. Hi, Caitlin. So my question is actually more around the obstacle side. So what obstacles have you come across in your personal and professional branding journey? And then how have you been able to overcome those?
That's an excellent question. So for me personally, I think a lot of people go through this is, of course, I don't want to say worrying about what other people think, but it's scary to put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
Now that we have moved into a super digital age where everything exists online for everybody to see and comment on and live forever. So it can be kind of scary sometimes. And I used to be very cautious about anything I put out, which is not a bad thing. There's a spectrum. We all have different comfort levels. But I've also come to realize the more courage you take to put your true self out there can reap more rewards. It can provide better opportunities that are more in line with your core values.
Sure.
So I used to, back in the day when I started my blog or my writing, I wrote, very travel related things, as I mentioned. But then I started branching out into more thought articles, things I was passionate about that I recognized maybe not everybody would agree with. And Brandon mentioned this before. Part of branding and part of marketing is not everybody is going to agree or love with everything you say. And as a people pleaser, that was really hard for me.
Very hard.
It's very hard. But if you only say things that placate everybody and don't express anything real, it's not going to really go anywhere. So for example, one of my favorite companies is Patagonia. Yvon Chouinard has a book that I read in college called Let My People Go Surfing. And they are a company that takes a stand. whether you agree with their stand or not, but they take a very distinct stand. They have put very politically motivated things on their product website, which takes a lot of courage, but they stand by who they are, and they know from a branding and marketing perspective, some people aren't going to like this. This is who we are, and some people are going to love it. And that just takes practice. It takes some courage. So I think that's one of the obstacles we probably all face, is finding that sweet spot of how much do I share? How comfortable do I feel? But you can also see that it can bring things back to you as well.
Right.
So, do you have a
Thank
thought?
you.
Is that okay?
Oh, that was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Allie, thank you so much for your question, and thank you for being here today.
Thank
Allie.
you.
So next, we're going to go to another question. We have Melissa. Melissa, if you're on the line, you can unmute. If not,
Hi.
I'll go ahead.
Okay,
Oh,
I got it.
You're there? Okay. Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Hi, good, and you?
Excellent. I am doing well. Where are you located?
I am currently in Orlando. I have my
Yes.
cast member pantry shirt on.
Amazing. It's a great cause and helping so many of our cast members out during this time as well. So awesome. So we're going to give you a moment to share your question with Caitlin.
Yeah, so my question is, you have a lot of experiences and like all this knowledge that you've built over the years, but what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew at the start of your career?
Oh, that's a really good one. Well, first of all, I also want to say thank you, Melissa, for what you're doing. When I first learned about the cast member pantry, I just, again, was overwhelmed with gratitude and, admiration for the people that work, in this area, just supporting cast members, but also the hospitality industry in general. So thank you very much for what you're doing. That's absolutely incredible. And something I wish I could have told myself back in the day, again, call this the enthusiast in me. I was always on the search for the perfect fit dream job. It started out being, a lead on a Broadway show in New York City and, moving across the world. And I've had a lot of wonderful experiences, and I'm grateful for each and every one of them. But I also wish I told myself, back when I was starting out, to put a little less pressure on myself. That it's about finding the right fit job based on my skill sets and hopefully my passions, if I can integrate both of those things into a job. But one thing you'll find is it's very hard to find opportunities like that. And not everybody has the ability to just search for passion. Sometimes you have to get a paycheck to pay the bills. And so I wish I told myself, it's okay to find a job that you're good at and supplement your passions elsewhere. Find ways to add value outside of your job if you have to, similar to what you're doing right now. Like, that is a fantastic outlet that lets you live your passion. So I think that's what I would have told myself, because I did put a lot of pressure. Like, I need to find the dream job. I need to be super 110% passionate about everything I do all the time. And I think it's a little bit an unreasonable expectation. I don't know if that's my enthusiast enneagram. I don't know if that's my age. But at this point, I've kind of learned to find the balance of what's the right fit opportunity and then how I can supplement that with my passions.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for coming online as well and sharing your question with us, Melissa. And again, thank you so much for everything that you're doing for the Central Florida hospitality community, for our cast members and other workers within the hospitality industry as well. So we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I mentioned before, we're very tight on time, and honestly, I feel like we could keep this conversation going all day long. I love it, and I love the engagement. Here's what we would like to do. If we did not get to your question today, we promise you we want to follow up on those questions as well. So we have logged all of the questions that are here, and I promise you we are going to follow up with that. And if Caitlin's okay with it, if it's a question that directly relates to a topic that she spoke on, or even some of the advice that she shared today, If she's okay with sharing those responses, we'll turn to her and we'll get those responses back to you as quickly as we possibly can. But just for the sake of time today, we want to make sure that we keep moving on as well. So thank you all so much for continuing to share your questions. Caitlin, we haven't really talked much about it yet, but ambassador. I wanted to talk about that briefly because several individuals in this room may not be familiar with the Walt Disney World or the Disney Ambassador program. So can you tell us more about exactly what is the Ambassador program and what were some of your responsibilities as an ambassador?
Yes, the Disney Ambassador program is, I still can't believe it's something I was able to participate in. But the program was started, it was one of Walt's last projects he worked on, and he actually worked on it with Jack Lindquist, who was his marketing executive at the time. They implemented it at the 10th Centennial of Disneyland when Walt Disney couldn't be everywhere at once. There was so much going on, so they selected from the cast somebody to represent all of the cast members, represent Walt when he couldn't be present, and serve as a spokesperson on behalf of the company. It has evolved over time. It's been over 50 years now. So it has evolved, but at the heart of it is still an emissary of goodwill for the local community. It is the ultimate representative of the Disney cast members around the world, which is why I loved it so much, because I love the people that work for the company, which is why developing others is such a passion of mine, because it's the people that make that place so special. And then, of course, it's an official spokesperson on behalf of the company, serving in a variety of roles, media interviews, representing the company locally and abroad. So it's different every day. It develops a lot of skill sets I might not have had the chance to develop otherwise. And it's just something I'm so proud to be a part of. And I'm proud that the company still supports a role like this. So it's been an honor.
I agree. And thinking about that ambassador role, again, you tell this story in one of your article posts about going through that whole process. But then early on, you went to an ambassador selection ceremony within, I believe, your first month of working at Disney. And I still remember just being in the audience or being a participant in the audience for an ambassador selection ceremony. And they are absolutely amazing. And I thought it was great because in that story, you tell how that kind of opened your eyes to the culture of Disney as well. And how those ambassador selection ceremonies, they're absolutely amazing. You know, if you've ever worked for Disney, you get a chance to go to one, you know, it's beautiful because I almost say it's like being on American Idol in a way. You've got your like teams who are there like supporting you. They're holding up signs and X, Y, and Z and so on. But it truly is a great look at the support that we provide each other as cast members and how much, you know, we want to see people succeed and do well within the organization as well. May I ask, just thinking about your time after ambassador, do you think that being an ambassador helped you to craft, you know, who you are today, your professional image?
Yes, and so it's very interesting because serving as a brand ambassador for a company is very different from serving or creating your own personal and professional brand as you. So during my time in the role, what I learned was how to apply different lenses, especially since I was not just Caitlin. I wasn't there representing just Caitlin. I was there representing the man Walt Disney, a global company, 75,000 cast members in the Central Florida area. So I had to be very aware and almost, I don't want to say take myself out of the equation totally, but I had to wear the Disney ambassador hat first. So it was almost an interesting transition coming out of the role and transitioning back into like, oh, I'm Caitlin. So maybe I can, you know, going back to Allie's question earlier, maybe it's okay for me to share some more opinions or stories that are more pointed or more based on what I, you know, what my personal thoughts are. But what I kept from that role is to look at everything through multiple lenses. So when you're putting anything on social media, of course, I think it takes courage be yourself, be authentically you. And it's okay if you put things out there that not everybody's going to love, but I still will read things or look at things multiple times from different lenses before posting it. Like, 'cause I have my personal brand, but I still work professionally in a corporate environment. So I'm like, okay, so if someone from like HR looked at this, would this happen? Or if someone from, so I just try to still apply those lenses to make sure I'm putting the best product out there, and I'm not, again, you're not going to please everybody, but I just try to make it as the best it can possibly be. So that's definitely something I took from the role of being an ambassador.
I love that. No, that's great. So I want to highlight that in talking about being your best self really in the digital world or online with social media. Something that you've been able to do successfully is to actually blend your platforms. So, and I always say that social media platforms are not created equal. Facebook is not the same as LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not the same as Instagram either. You're going to have different audiences with that. How important was it for you, and how are you able to do this, be able to blend your personal brand with each one of these platforms, just to make sure that, one, you're delivering a consistent message, but you're still showcasing and showcasing your passion as well?
That's a great question, and you're right, they're not all created equally, and I don't use all of them the same. So LinkedIn, you'll see people talk about this a lot on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not Facebook. It is not a place to get into debates and to troll people. It happens. But I really try to keep LinkedIn as my professional portfolio. It's where I put articles that I've written. It's where I engage with professionals. It's where I learn from other people. I really try to keep that professional. With that being said, I do link to my website on LinkedIn because that's my extension of my portfolio, but I don't link to my Instagram account on LinkedIn. Instagram, people can find me. It is public. I just choose to not mix them on that medium, but if people happen to find me on Instagram, that is where I do a bit more of my personal branding. Those are my passions, the things that I love. So whether that's health and fitness or sustainability, things that make me a little bit more travel. And again, from a marketing perspective, I always try to think purposefully, like, what is your purpose? If you want to get into a marketing field, if you want to get into a creative field, maybe Instagram is more your platform. From a marketing perspective, I've had success on Instagram because I've talked about sustainability. I have had sustainability brands reach out to me and ask about partnership opportunities. Whereas if I'd kind of kept that to myself, that passion, those opportunities might not have been available. So I do use Instagram as a personal brand, almost marketing to some extent, but I also have fun on it. So I'll post about my cat. If you ever follow me on Instagram, you will see Cat the Cat. And then Facebook, to me, I use that more for promotional things. That's my friends, my family. If I have an article on my blog and I'm like, hey guys, this is what I do for fun. Do you mind reading it? Like, I just use that to share with those people that I love. I don't necessarily put that anywhere professionally. I know Twitter is another one that I haven't quite mastered yet. Don't get me started on TikTok. Old. But there's multiple platforms. I say find the one that works for you personally. Find the one that works for your brand. I've seen people do great things with their creative brands on Instagram. And then, find what works for you. Again, I don't put my Instagram account on my resumes, but I put my LinkedIn and my website. So it all comes down to your personal brand and what makes sense for you.
Makes sense. My final question for you, thinking about your website and thinking about your personal brand as well, how much time do you devote typically to maintaining your website or your social media channels, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, or even your Facebook?
So it can be a full-time job sometimes to keep up with everything. It's a lot of extra work, especially if I'm doing videos. So I've recently amped up my website because I have more time these days. So I do spend a good bit of time writing. What I usually do is I get up at 5:30 every morning, and I spend a good hour devoted to doing my passion projects, whether that's writing a travel article or, planning a video for a professional resource. So I have that time for myself, and nobody can take it away from me. The day can't get away from me. So I do try to do that just about every day, but it might also be reading a leadership book. I used to post on the website once a week back when I lived in China, but I've not been able to maintain that because life gets a little bit busy. As for my Instagram account, I'm pretty active on there. That is a creative outlet for me, a storytelling outlet. So that, and it's a little bit more of a casual outlet. So I am able to do that pretty regularly. So it ebbs and flows based on what's going on in my life. But if you can devote a time, if you can promise yourself a time, whether it's in the morning or the evening, and commit yourself to that, you'll be amazed at some of the content you can produce. And I think it's really, really important if you want to develop that personal brand and be discovered.
I love it. Caitlin, you had some amazing feedback, and I will tell you honestly, we have the perfect guest speaker for our first session today. I want to take a moment and actually introduce someone else who has taken some of the advice that you shared today, and she's actually created her own online portfolio and professional portfolio. She's in our session today. We have Jana Cooper. Jana, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Yes, hi, Jana. How are you?
Doing very well.
Excellent. Jana, where are you located?
I'm currently in Pennsylvania with family, but I'm normally from North Carolina, former Disney cast member and new grad.
Congratulations. So Jana, if I recall correctly, you recently graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Hospitality Management from Western Carolina University, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I have an interesting story. So Jana reached out to me early on, or actually we built a connection on LinkedIn back in late March. And when I reached out to Jana just to say hello, the first thing she did was to present her online professional portfolio with me.
All right, you guys are going to chat for a minute, right? Because
sorry, Ben. Sorry, Jana, are you still there?
Yes.
Hear me? Okay, perfect. No worries. So we're going to make sure if you're unmuted, make sure that you mute yourself real fast. But Jana, just to quickly mention, Jana reached out to me and she shared her online portfolio, and it's a project that you worked on fairly recently. But I'm going to share the screen in just a moment and show your online portfolio. And if you could just walk us through and tell us really, how did you develop? Where did this idea come from? And tell us why it was so important to you.
Yes, so I found it super important to present yourself more so than your resume. I definitely connected with a lot of what Caitlin had said about that's your two-dimensional self on your resume, and this can be so much more. So for me, this began as a short assignment that I was given, where I needed to put my resume, I needed to put my my work history and my on-campus organizations online, and I created it to be so much more than that. I really wanted to show people how I can quantify their business. I want to give you results. I want to show you what I can do. And all the different ways that I can do that. I really loved what we had two Allies. The first Allie had said about being your I think it was your multi-passionate identities. And for me, this was a wonderful way to see that I graduated with hospitality and tourism management, but I have a lot of experience with public relations and communications. And so this can be used for everybody's professions. You don't have to be a marketing major to have an online portfolio, but using those multi-passions, I didn't have to label myself as one thing. And I think that's something that us young people are really excited for the workforce, because we want that dream job. We want to be something. We want to have that title. We want to, I want to be this. And you can be all of those things at the same time. And so I used my communications to present this. And I think it's super, definitely more evolved in every step than a resume.
And I love it. We had a conversation yesterday about how you were able to leverage your online portfolio to showcase your letters of recommendation that you have received as well. You know, I love it because at the very beginning on the first page, you actually have listed some positive feedback or words that you have received from individuals who have worked with you too. But it's absolutely amazing what you've done with this. And I mentioned to Jana, I said, this is a first. I've never had anyone, you know, in my time being on LinkedIn, reach out to me and immediately share a portfolio, especially an individual who works primarily within the hospitality industry. I said, typically we find this, you know, if you have a marketing job or you're looking for a marketing career, you're doing something that's more on the artistic side. Now, of course, you do have a marketing background, but I thought this was absolutely amazing, and I thought it was a great way to showcase your background, your experience. I love the story that you said as well. You know, it all started out as a school project, but you know, you've been able to maintain it at this point. So just like Kate or Caitlin, I wanted to ask you, how often do you update this, or how much time did you spend developing your actual online portfolio?
Yes, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It can take you, just think of it kind of like you're editing a video. Once you take the movie, you got to sit back and you've got to edit the video. It's going to take you always a little bit more time than you anticipated it taking. But from 1 to 2 hours, you can get those basic things that you wanted to have on here, but you can turn it into so much more. It's so much fun to play with and get used to. And in this time that we've had so much extra time to ourselves, you can definitely build it into different things. So
I love it. Excellent. And what platform did you use to build your online portfolio?
yes, so I used Weebly. I preferred it over Wix. It's just more things that you can look into, different platforms. This one really worked for me, very user friendly, and it gave me a lot of range and options for myself.
I love it. Excellent. Well, again, like I said, Jana, this is amazing work. Hopefully you're able to maintain and upkeep this and, you know, be able to market this to future employers as you head out into the job market as well. So Jana, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for your willingness to step in and actually show us your online portfolio too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody that would like to see it, the links are there, and feel free to connect with me and I can help you make one.
We love it. Perfect. So don't hesitate, yes, to reach out to Jana. I will share this link as well in the chat. So if anyone would like to visit it on their own time, you're welcome to do so. Jana, thank you for being on. And guess what? We're out of time, folks. It's 5:05 and I don't want to hold everyone up, but I just want to take a moment and thank everyone for being part of this today. This is amazing. Like I said, I'm completely humbled and I'm honored to be part of this and have these great guest speakers, and for you all for sharing your questions too. We hope to continue this series of professional chats over the next several months as well. So as I said before, we encourage you to visit our website, look for more posts on LinkedIn as well, and our social media channels. We'll share some more information there. As a reminder, if we did not get to your question today, I promise you we will answer those questions. We had some great questions come through that we didn't get to today, but I promise you we will answer those questions for you. On that note, everyone, I would like to thank you all for being here, and I hope you have a great week, and we will see you again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Have a magical day.
Thank you. You too.